Perfect. Hey, everybody. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day so far. Wherever you are tuning in from, we really do appreciate the time. I know everybody's extremely busy with everything they have going on right now, so we do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to come out and join us today. We really do hope that from what everyone has to say today, you do absorb some very valuable information regarding the current e-commerce ecosystem in 2020 and what we've seen so far, what we are planning on seeing and going into Q4. Just going to have a conversation, and I think the best way to move forward is just introduce ourselves and go from there. Starting off with myself, first off, introducing myself, my name is Jacob Margosian, and I'm the Client Growth Manager here at Nativex. Spend most of my time partnering up with acquisition professionals globally, helping them explore emerging platforms like TikTok, reaching markets in APAC, and just providing full service agencies as a full service marketing agency. Moving on with Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. My name's Tony Raffetto. I started the New York office for Appsflyer about 5.5 years ago, and I lead the customer success team there. So we work with a wide range of e-commerce apps, from traditional brick and mortar to fully digital brands like eBay. And we actually put together a guide recently highlighting some of these trends. So a lot of the data that we'll talk about is actually coming directly from that, so we could share it afterwards.
Perfect. Adam?
Awesome. My name is Adam Blacker, the VP of Insights at Apptopia, and we estimate performance for every mobile app in the world. So you can benchmark your app, find out what's growing, what's slowing, and dig into where some opportunities might be.
Perfect. Tiffany?
Hi, my name is Tiffany O. I'm the General Manager, oversees US and Latin market. And Nativex is a mobile-first performance agency. We've been working closely with apps, including game, utility, and also e-commerce apps. So hopefully today we can share some insights and also some marketing advertising strategy with all of you.
Perfect. Sounds great. Now that you guys have met all the presenters, which are all provide very valuable information across the board on a daily basis to everybody in the industry, now you get a chance to more specifically get some feedback regarding what they have to say moving into Q4. I want to quickly go over the agenda, what we have planned for today. First, we're going to dive into the current landscape of e-commerce in 2020, some of the trends that we're looking into, our global trends to consider, understanding the role social media plays and how that plays when structuring your UA strategies moving forward. We are going to be ending with a Q&A session, but please feel free to type in your questions throughout the entire presentation. We will be saving some time at the end to go over these questions, just to save time. And just as a little thank you to you guys that join us today, if you guys are willing to spend a few minutes at the end of the webinar to answer a survey, we are going to be giving out a free pair of AirPods Pro. I use them myself all the time. I'm sure you guys already, a few of you guys have it yourselves, but just something to get you guys engaged. Just a few minutes, a pop-up will come up on your screen. And if you could just follow that, answer a few simple, quick questions about the survey, we should have a winner in the next couple of days. Just a little excitement to get us started. Perfect. I think we can go ahead and get started. The best way that I imagine that moving forward with this would be, before moving into detailed approach and data points, I think it's looking into 2020 global trends is very important. We could go ahead and get started with Tony and Appsflyer. What markets and regions have you guys currently been seeing the highest adoption of mobile shopping?
Yeah, so this is actually interesting because a lot of the other regions outside of the US we see more non-organic installs, but in the US, a lot of it is just driven by organic traffic, just a huge influx of user intent. And a part of it is actually because of the expense of acquiring a user in the US. So you'll see other regions like Brazil, see India, the United Arab Emirates, they're seeing massive growth. Actually, Brazil, if you look at this slide here, the second slide, sorry, they've overtaken the United States in terms of pure installs from paid channels. So we're seeing a lot of growth, especially in APAC, but also in Latin America. Yeah.
It's actually very interesting to see Brazil on top of that paid installs list, and it's just the real sentiment to show the growth in that market. They're, from current studies and articles that come out, they're currently growing 2 times faster than anybody around them. I think, and also a very interesting point here is that TikTok is releasing their LATAM offering coming into Q4, so that should be a huge new advertising paid mix that could be added and continue that scale in non-organic installs that they're seeing. Perfect. Speaking about market potential, is there any other great opportunities you're seeing in 2020, Adam? I know you guys have a lot of feedback regarding that as well.
Yeah, so when I think about market opportunity, I want to look at like the top heaviness of a market. So we took the shopping category and we determined what percentage of downloads in the shopping category per market are the top 50 making up. And we did year over year in Q3, as you can see here. So the US market, the UK market, pretty stable. Brazil, we see that, you know, it's grown into 70%. So that's really top heavy. It's a lot of the big heavy hitters there that are getting most of the downloads. So that's a market that would have less opportunity. We can see China and India, they've actually gone down year over year. So maybe things are loosening up there. And I think the United States and the UK are just, they're very mature markets. And so you see a lot of people willing to try things, you know, other than Amazon, right? Because there's a lot of different style of e-commerce catering to different needs, you know, sneakers, glasses, bedding, things like that. And here we're looking at, these are some markets of interest, people who speak to us that they are usually interested in. And these countries actually make up about 62% of all global shopping downloads, and Brazil, which Tony just mentioned, has shown the most great growth from our data from year over year, from June to August. So kind of looking at the summer, it's grown 50% year over year. But the interesting thing to note, I would say, about China here is Google Play is not live in China. And so our data here on China is iOS only, and it's that powerful. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was going to say, with China being the largest mobile market, I know you said that there's been a little downturn in terms of the focus there, but it's definitely still the largest market in the world.
Well, downturn in terms of the top heaviness. So if anything, it's just there's more apps that are becoming more successful there, which is nice to see.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, Adam, this data is only for iOS, and Android takes over 80% of the market.
That's right.
Yeah.
And with China leading in terms of like mobile interest, I think this is a perfect segue to talk about Tiffany, with your experience, you know, partnering up with some of the largest overseas advertisers and helping them leverage the China market and get it into the China market. We know it's a whole different beast. We know it's something that people always want to get into, have been trying to get into, apps and brands have been wanting to get into, but it's just challenging, whether it's the regulations, whether it's understanding the market, whether it's a creative approach. What feedback would you have when it comes to China and just you know, other regions that you see as well?
So China definitely is by far the world's largest e-commerce market. And it's also the world's most penetrated e-commerce market. When I say penetrated market is because more than 80% of the users are shopping online. And they spend a lot of time not only just shopping, but also utilize the social component of doing e-commerce. And per marketers' projected number, this year, China will produce $2 trillion e-commerce sales this year. That's like more than 50% of the global sales total. And this, of course, include app download and app revenue, and also website, right? Taobao and all other major e-commerce website. And 41% of the retail sales will take place digitally in China. That's really substantial. And another interesting thing of e-commerce phenomena that created from China is live stream selling. And you can see that there are 3 images that way included here. So what is live stream selling? It's a form of online shopping that is interactive and take place in real time. And you know, influencer, celebrity, or anyone like you and me can host a live stream selling events. And that whole shopping experience just to create a new and innovative way for brands and retailers to connect with the consumer real time. And during this live stream selling event, user can interact with the host. It's like, hey, how do you use this product, this facial cream? How do you use it? How often do you use it? What kind of experience do you have? And a lot of times during those live stream selling events, they have like discount code and to really increase the sales. And one interesting data that I found is one of the most famous influencer in China, Jet Li, he sold 500 limited edition of Mini Cooper in 10 minutes. that's just how powerful live stream sales is in China.
Yeah. Every time I hear that number, I lose my mind, because that's
10 minutes.
exceptional. That's nothing that we've seen in the US. Even though live is extremely large in the US, whether it's streaming, whether it's YouTube live, or across the board Facebook live, it's incredible to see the growth that China has been able to leverage those live streams. And I think that's a trend that we should see fall over all around the world as we continue and as we move forward.
Hopefully soon. I know I was planning to do that later this year, was before the whole geopolitical issue, but hopefully starting next year, we're going to see something coming up.
Definitely. I do think that's also probably a possibility. Thanks for the additional feedback regarding that. I think we've been talking a lot about emerging platforms, emerging regions, emerging markets. But I think it's also important to understand the impact that we're seeing locally in the US. I think that's very, very important. And I think it's a perfect way to get into question for Adam. When looking at the e-commerce ecosystem, specifically in the US, which verticals are you currently seeing experience the most growth? Is it marketplace? Is it general retail, fashion? Where do you see that most growth currently being seen?
Yeah, so I mean, as you can see in this visual, right, it's installment payments, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you'll notice that most of these are growing except for rewards and savings. But I would just point out that even though they're new installs, their new users are down year over year. Again, we're looking at summer data for this in the United States. Their sessions, so the use, the engagement of the users that have already downloaded the app is up. And so, yeah, like we talked about earlier, these more specific use cases are growing faster than large retailers. As you can see, large retailers is down there. Those are your Amazons, those are your Walmarts, and they're just massive. If you were to look at absolute numbers, of course, they're going to be on top. But in terms of growth, the growth is happening in more of these niche and specific use cases. And so installment payments, for people who don't know, these are things like Klarna and Affirm. Affirm actually just filed for an IPO. And so, say that again.
Afterpay.
Afterpay, is that who filed for it?
No, Afterpay was it offered the same installment payment.
Oh yes, okay. Afterpay, QuadPay, yeah. There's a few of them, and basically people who either don't want a credit card, can't get a credit card, these companies will lend to them in installment payments, and they get to kind of determine how much they're willing to pay back per month. And based on how much they're willing to pay back per month, they pay a certain amount of interest. They don't have a credit check done on them. And so people who are in a lower socioeconomic situation are really flooding to these, because it allows them to buy big ticket items for the holidays that maybe they wouldn't necessarily have access to. And we are seeing it just absolutely take off. And maybe the pandemic has helped increase that, because people have, maybe they're out of a job, but you still want to get your family member a present or something like that. And so they've really taken off. We've seen more downloads for them. I think we have a slide later than we've seen last holiday season. So really impressive.
Yeah. And it's pretty amazing to see the growth of Affirm specifically. I know Affirm has, in the last couple of years, has grown. I used to see it back in the day when we were trying to buy shoes or trying to buy something, you used to see it all around. Then now it's like becoming more specific need cases of everything. It's becoming a day-to-day need for everybody. And I think it's going to continue to be a day-to-day need for everybody. So that's extremely important. And you mentioned a lot about, the lockdown and that having a tremendous impact on this. I know the team at Appsflyer has put together several reports regarding the lockdown and what exactly has happened. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts and your feedback moving forward, and seeing what you guys have seen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Amex, my Amex, has tried to get me to do the Affirm type payments. Like, oh, you could break this out in increments. I haven't done it yet, but I'm looking at it. So we kind of see something similar to what you mentioned, Adam. What's also really interesting is you're almost seeing what we call window shopping. And I guess I mentioned it with like my Poshmark and eBay addictions, but you see a huge increase in the number of sessions on the fashion apps. And you see the spike here. This is actually just sessions that you're seeing in this view, but people are opening those apps more. But the spike in purchases maybe isn't happening from that as much from what we've seen. It still is, but retail purchases are gaining in so much more volume. And I think you could say it kind of replaced a lot of the in-store purchases that were happening. And then the other thing you could kind of say about it is you don't have to worry about trying something on when you're buying from a retail store. So it's a simpler process. Like, oh, you go to Walmart, you pre-order, you pick it up, and now you don't have to deal with all the issues associated with interacting with a bunch of people and touching everything and all that stuff. So I think that's a big part of why we've seen so much growth in the traditional retail space. And then it's really interesting too that the marketplace, so if you look at, well, actually that slide that you just had up, you see that marketplace doesn't really get the same revenue spikes that other channels do. So if you look at it for the holiday, for instance, in December, there wasn't really the same level of increase or bump for holiday 2019 that there was for all the other types of products, retail, fashion, etc. People aren't buying secondhand to the same extent. And you sort of see that into COVID as well, May, June, where it did get a bump, but honestly, it was probably the lowest bump of any of the other platforms. So marketplace was probably the least, fashion had the most attention, but maybe not as many purchases, and retail, everyone just moved online.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And do you see this trend continuing, or do you see it changing, or what do you see it happening in the next couple months to moving into 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll start talking about holiday in a bit, but yeah, I definitely see it increasing. There's like a frenzy right now about holiday 2020. All the money is coming into mobile right now because there's not many other channels to spend it on.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that very soon, so no need to spill all the details there. But yeah. Perfect. Now that we're able to get an idea of what verticals are performing, who's experiencing growth, I don't think it's you're able to move forward without being able to develop a lucrative strategy when you enter Q4 or just moving forward with e-commerce. With Tiffany's experience, crafting effective strategies and business plans for a lot of their clients and moving forward, what recommendations do you have here, and how do you see it playing out in Q4 and beyond?
Yeah, we're just talking about this year is absolutely unprecedented for any other compared to any other year. This whole pandemic actually accelerated e-commerce growth, right? On the previous slide that Tony presented, 30% minimum e-commerce sales increased since the pandemic started. And with all the online sales, this year we're going to be reaching a level that we're not projected to reach until 2022. And especially like Amazon Prime Day started almost 3 weeks later, they skipped the summer sales and back to school sales and jump into directly in a shopping season, which actually kick off the shopping season a little early than normal. And some of the strategy, I'm just thinking, and I also wanted to provide some of the insights based on our experience and what we've been seeing since February. I think all the marketers needs to have absolutely stay more fluid in terms of your strategy, in terms of your thinking. We develop a month over month sort of way of doing your marketing this year. In October, actually, we highly recommend it starting in September, but since we're now at mid-October, starting this month, absolutely update your creative, test your creative, right? You test new platforms, for example, on TikTok and Twitch, and not any other platform. Well, the cost is still low compared to moving on to November and December. When you test new platforms, get your benchmark. What is your benchmark CPI? What is your benchmark CPC? What is your benchmark CPA? And also take this time in October, build your retargeting audience pool through email, through network, and through Facebook. Build your audience pool, then you can later on to utilize that retargeting pool to get your most optimal cost per. And moving on to November, test your offers. Try out your creative in the sense of, what kind of messaging will resonate with your user the best, and test your content. And also promotion is going to play a big role this year. With the pandemic affect everyone. People are much more savvy shoppers now. We're seeing a lot of shoppers this year is, deal seeker shoppers. Not every digital shoppers have a brand loyalty anymore. We want to buy anything that has the best price. So for any e-marketer or D2C brand, test any discount model that you can think of. Is it better to do 15% off across the board, or it's better to do a tiered discount structure? Spend, give you $25 for any $100 off. So things like that. And also plan to increase your budget by 15 to 20% week over week in November. So that's going to help you get to the point, get ready for December. December is the month for you to ongoing optimize your plan and scale, scale, scale. Catch the momentum, get your user, and close the deal.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just to add on a little bit about updating your new creatives once a week, especially for like platforms like everyone's leveraging, like TikTok, for example. This is extremely important. We've seen clients, increase cost per acquisition or lower cost per acquisition by over 20% using these creatives. And being native to the platform is more important than everything. I'm sure you guys seen it across different platforms now. You're seeing TikTok ads being promoted on Facebook, or being promoted on Google, or being promoted on Snapchat. Why do you think that? I think it's because of the nature of the content. It's interactive, it's engaged. People want to have, people want to connect with the person in the video and not just make it seem like an ad in general. And definitely continues to be low cost compared to other platforms. So the advantage taking is now our clients are continuously reaching out to us and saying, how can you help us scale on this platform? Scale, scale, scale. Give us whatever we can on this platform, because it's continuing to grow at a pace that we can't imagine. Imagine a platform growing like exceptionally fast on a daily basis, which is not seen around anymore. So definitely what Tiffany mentioned is extremely important. Perfect. And when you're putting together a plan for these mobile shopping apps, specifically for apps, I know we mentioned, how does your approach really differ from iOS and Android? Because it's definitely something that you need to consider moving forward. And question for Tony here would be, between iOS and Android, where are you guys currently seeing higher engagement rates, higher conversion rates? Definitely would love to hear some feedback regarding that.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that the US has higher organic counts compared to other network or other regions. And a big part of that is because there's a lot more US iOS users that are more expensive. So it's not as practical to just acquire all those users. And actually, if you look at the spend though, it's 53% higher in the US than every other region combined based on our data. So those iOS users are traditionally just way more expensive. But you also see that there's a bit more stability with Android. So iOS, you kind of see a couple big spikes across general retail, but Android is kind of a little bit more stable in terms of their growth over the time that you're looking at here. One other thing is we're starting to see a lot more e-commerce clients take advantage of retargeting existing users. So it's not an acquisition cost necessarily, but it is a bit more affordable. And I think that's a part of it. You have all these users, the CPI is continuing to climb, and it will likely climb into, well, if all of Tiffany's clients are doing her plan, then there's going to be a lot of clients spending a lot of money. So I think the opportunity to test re-engaging existing users, especially for e-commerce, because you get a user back into your app and they spend $100, that's a lot more valuable than a gaming client. They get a user back into their app and they view a couple ads. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, the Android users do tend to be cheaper, but they're all generating a lot of revenue too. So if you see on the side, it says that there's a 55% increase in Android revenue by fashion apps. So there is opportunity there for sure, and on both. But I think a lot of it will be dependent on the region and the market that you're playing in.
Yeah, and like that's definitely, thanks for the background, Tony. It's really interesting to see the growth and focus on Android, especially with iOS 14 in the mix. We're all with IDFA being a big concern for everybody moving forward. We've had a lot of clients also reach out and say, how can we continue growing our Android side, and why is Android paying much more focus into the Android segment? I think this is a great segue into UA costs or user acquisition costs and changes that we've seen throughout the year. Where are we now, and what's different now than what it was, a couple months ago, last year, in terms of costs? Are you guys seeing exceptionally raising costs? I think we can start with Tiffany here and then go on to Tony right after.
Yeah. So again, the recent acceleration towards digital sales has shown much more consumers have seen the benefit and the ease of shopping online doing e-commerce, in particular in some category that they've never considered before, like groceries, right? Food and drink. I've never shopped for grocery. I just enjoy going to Costco, even waiting in the long line. I just love the feeling of going to a grocery store. But now, much more users start considering doing all those shoppings online and home improvements, auto parts. And so this year will be one of the most promotional holiday season ever. Of course, due to a lot of brick and mortar stores have closed down and they have more inventory, especially in those apparel industry. And using Facebook for an example, the cost per increased from 11 to 19 year over year. And this is just general cost per compared to all other category. And the difference we're seeing, aside from the UA costs increased, but more users are actually being converted, is the users are lack of brand loyalty, more deal seeker shoppers. And this is the report done by Breeze. So with 26% more consumer have tried at least one new brand during pandemic, which I just asked a question through the chat. I'm curious to know, any one of you have tried anything, any e-commerce app since pandemic? I definitely have logged in and got a few new e-commerce brand since the pandemic. And with that new shoppers and being brought to the e-commerce world, the user retention actually being really low. Looking at the chart, based on the research that we're seeing, the retention rate fell the most over a 3-month period of time, and which resulted in the final rate of around 3%, which is 82% lower retention rate than those users that you acquire during a non-COVID, non-holiday period of time. So this is the time brand or e-commerce has to think about, what is your new benchmark? What is your new LTV? Even the cost per is high, you're gonna acquire more user, but an LTV is low. How do you set up a new way of measure your success for the shopping season?
Yeah, and definitely interesting about how you mentioned how everyone's starting some new passion or new e-commerce app or trying out some new shopping app. Definitely, I see it across the board, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's learning a new language, whatever the offering is. I think there is a lot of new consumers in the market, which is very interesting going into Q4. Perfect. I think what goes hand in hand with UA costs is, I know, actually, Tony, did you have anything we wanted to mention regarding cost of UA?
I mean, I think you kind of, you see a very big change depending on the time frame. And I think there was a Target case study that I saw years ago that basically said when people are having change in their life, it's one of the biggest opportunities to acquire them as a new user. And I mean, it's kind of reflected in the UA costs over the past several months. So it initially dropped because of COVID, and then it raised back up when marketers realized, oh, we can still spend. Gamers were the first to get on that. The gaming vertical, the cost for gaming acquisition was like 40% higher right afterwards. It was rising pretty consistently. But then, you had the Facebook boycott, which is this whole thing. And there was actually costs to be, or efficiencies to be had there because people weren't, spending there. And then you have all this drama with iOS 14 on the Facebook earnings call at the end of the quarter. They were saying, oh, with iOS 14, we don't know if we're going to be able to monetize. It may affect our revenue. Exactly. And suddenly you're probably seeing the opposite thing where people are like, okay, we're doubling down while we can. We'll worry about, I mean, it's almost like there's a frenzy right now. It's like, we'll worry about 2021 and what Apple actually comes out with when they announce it and firm it up. But for now, it's like, we need to take advantage of the time that we have.
big sigh of relief, kind of, you know, like might as well take it. Yeah, like you mentioned, we're hearing that across the board too. You know, like obviously it's something to consider in the back end of your mind, but nothing right now. Just play the times, do what you got to do, and make the most of it. That definitely makes sense. Perfect. I think what goes hand in hand, UA costs, is tracking this early shopping season that we were all discussing. I know you had some points regarding this. Adam, what feedback would you have regarding, you know, the early shopping season and moving forward in Q4?
Yeah, so I think this is we talked about installment payment apps earlier, and this is just like a zoom in on that because it was the leader in growth. So I felt it was important to just like show how impressive the growth was, again spurred by the pandemic. You can see in September it had more installs, 106% increase year over year, but also just about as many installs as it had during the holiday season, which is traditionally its heyday. And so, you know, we expect an even bigger holiday season for it. And so for retailers, e-commerce providers, platforms, whatever you are, if you have big ticket items, and I mean, it really does depend on who your buyers are. But if you have big ticket items, people have these apps, they're downloading these apps, they're liking them, they're using them. And so if you're not integrated with them, it could be a missed opportunity. Again, it does depend on who your buyer is, just because if you're selling to affluent people, they're certainly playing the credit card game, getting their points, things like that, and maybe it doesn't make sense for you. But otherwise, I think it's a great opportunity to integrate with these payment providers.
Definitely understanding your audience is important there. But so would you say adding these payment options would be something that you see being a standard moving forward, or would you say it's still going to be only focused on your audience and if that audience actually needs it? But as the brand gets larger and larger, they have a more wide scope audience. They have a larger different demographics. Do you see this trend continuing to play out, and do you see it becoming a standard in 2021 even?
Yeah, it's a situation. I don't know if anyone is like familiar with those charts that they say slowly then suddenly. Yeah. I think this is one of those situations because PayPal, the OG in digital payments, they bought something. It might have been called just buy now, pay later. And they rebranded it to PayPal Credit years ago. And they've been pumping that for a long time. And then other brands caught on, and it's their only service. And they're having, as you can see, it's a flood of success. So I think it's been like a nice to have, maybe a few years ago. And now I do think it's a better situation for people choosing to integrate with them. And again, I think as we get, not to get too sidetracked here, but I think as human history rolls on, like your credit score in a lot of situations is less and less reflective of your current situation or your ability to pay back. And these do not necessarily dive into your credit score. And so you're able to open your products up to a lot more people that maybe you weren't able to before.
Scope of reach gets a lot larger, definitely.
This is definitely interesting. I think it's a really good insights, especially, what we were seeing is e-commerce in the past, product costs more than like $1,000. It's going to take longer sales cycle, right? And you're going to utilize retargeting strategy to bring the user back to complete the transaction. Now with all the payment option there, allows user, without even thinking twice, I'm going to just click and collect to buy $4,000 worth of outdoor furniture.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. I would like to open this question to Tiffany and Tony as well. Starting with Tiffany, Singles Day, which is the largest shopping day in the world, actually, that is located in China. It's coming in a few weeks, and we just saw Amazon Prime. We just saw what they were able to do, and we know what Singles Day does to Amazon Prime Day in terms of total sales. So would love to hear your impact with your emphasis on China. Is there any points we could take away as Singles Day is coming up, and any feedback regarding that?
Yeah, so great to know that a lot of us here have at least heard of the Singles Day. This is the world's largest shopping event, happens on November 11, which a lot of Americans may not even have heard about. So it called the Singles Day, and as the name suggests, the Singles Day was started as an official celebration of a person being single. And Alibaba started this e-commerce shopping event back in 2009 as they realized, they can utilize a single day as an opportunity to profit from single consumers by providing an occasion to shop for themselves and celebrate being single. Back in those days, Valentine's Day, the Chinese Valentine's Day is one of the biggest shopping season, right? You shop for your lover, shop for your spouses. But then what about single people? We have to shop for ourselves. And so November 11 became one of the biggest e-commerce shopping event in the world. Last year, the reported spend on single day is 38 billion. And the sales hit 1.4 billion in 1 minute. So that when I saw the number, I'm like, there's no way. But at the same time, in the US market, we can definitely learn from that. What kind of shopping events that we can create and we can learn from the single day, and different strategy that we can really replicate from the successful Alibaba single day shopping events.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I remember last year when the data came out, the first thing that I noticed, or the first data point that came out, was that Alibaba's single day got more sales within the first hour than Prime Day did the whole day. And when I heard that, I was like, wow. I was really shocked at the moment, because I was like, you would expect Amazon being globally all except for China, but basically being everywhere else, you would expect to have way bigger of an audience. But just what's being seen in China in terms of growth and the ability to more willingness to purchase is being seen more and more every year as the country as together grows as well. Everybody from the tier 1 markets, but also the tier 2 and tier 3 markets are growing exceptionally well. And it's not just Alibaba that we're all used to. There's, Pinduoduo, there's, other e-commerce JD that are really blowing up right now. And it's just like, it's like, even though you see it being a big trend there, it's something that's going to eventually come to the US in terms of growth. So I think it's something to look forward to as a trend, and position your strategy accordingly. Tony, did you want anything else you wanted to add in terms of the upcoming shopping season?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's a really good point, because I was going to make the same point. So I guess I'm a little bit biased, but I mean, you have like Wayfair doing these days. They did one a couple of weeks ago. You have Prime Day. You have all these more contextual buying experiences that people are creating as a way of getting users. And for some clients, actually, they don't even feel like they need to run app install campaigns to do that, because they're getting so much value from the fact that there is an event in the first place. So it's almost like a PR thing or a branding exercise. And actually, if you go to, I think the next slide should show you this. If the next slide is the Appsflyer slide, but there's a spike for brick and mortar stores in November. They boom in terms of increase of buying users, or share of buying users. And then they did the same in April or May. That was actually even higher than the same time in November. So huge increase, particularly for brick and mortar that like traditional e-commerce or online only stores didn't see. So they're kind of like getting a bump just by their brand and the recognition already that they're able to take advantage of. But the traditional e-commerce clients that we work with don't have that ability. So they have to come up with their own concepts or their own branding and PR exercises. So I think that's huge. But I mean, at the same time, mobile is becoming more normalized. So you'll have Amazon with Walmart, whatever it is, you can check out with your phone. So you have more features that allow that to happen. You have app clips that can make it easy for you to just get into an app, purchase, complete that purchase or transaction, and get out. I think every time I go out these days, I'm using my phone, either a QR code to scan at a restaurant or to check out at a store or whatever it is. And it's just becoming like the standard. And so more and more of those purchases, even if they're in person, are potentially happening or being transacted on the mobile device. So you have more and more revenue coming through that way. Yeah. And then I mentioned it earlier, but I just think it's going to be extremely expensive. It seems like everyone is saying we need to grow. We had kind of this lull at points during the summer, and we got this like artificial holiday 2019 like spike in the middle of the summer, and now kind of going back to it. And there was one other point that we added to our e-commerce guide that was really interesting, is that post recession there was comfort buying going on. And maybe you could say Singles Day is a good example of comfort buying, but you'll see that at the end of COVID, where people will, as it gets normal, or even as it doesn't get normal, people will want to spend because it makes them feel better. So I personally think that this shopping season is going to be insane, but we'll see how it goes.
Tony, that's a great prediction, because China has been one of the countries recovered from pandemic, right? And they're already seeing that. The country reopened in, I think it was September or August, late August. And people start, like, they call revenge shopping or comfort shopping. All the luxury brands, people are lining up to get, like, Chanel bags. And this is comfort shopping event already started in China. And hopefully we can see that happening in the US too.
I like the term revenge shopping. That's a much better term than comfort shopping. I will say one other thing too, just like a little microcosm of example of that. So I'm in Tulum, Mexico right now, and there was a hurricane that was supposed to pass through. It was a Category 4. We thought we'd lose power and electricity and Wi-Fi for a few days. It was supposed to be this big thing. It passed through, and it wasn't that big of a deal. The end of the day, everything was back to normal, and everybody was out. The lights were on, the music was playing, because people were just like, I am so happy that I didn't have to deal with it. And they were prepared, and they got through it, and then they're like, let's go. Yeah. And there was definitely a different energy immediately after that. And you're probably seeing the same in China.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I know we've been mentioning a lot of the bigger names and, the Wayfairs, Amazons, and so on. But I also wanted to give a moment to, maybe the smaller marketplaces that are also trying to do something similar in terms of, having these special days. For example, like there are smaller apps that, whether it's Top Hatter or there's other e-commerce focused marketplaces. How would you say that going into a mobile focused and just internet focused online, would you say that this is a trend that all smaller marketplaces should follow too, and having this special day for their brand, or having this special maybe couple days throughout the year for their brand? Is this something we'll see more with? I know they've been having it in the past, but now it needs to be much more heavily invested to, much more paid attention to, just to make sure it could be more effective than their usual cases of advertising. Do you guys see anything that should also be seen in the smaller marketplaces as well as the larger ones? Anybody could.
Well, so I mean, I don't know how, I don't think they would have the success of an Amazon Prime, right? If they did it, but brands look for reasons to have sales anyway. So if they want to like make it their own special day, sure. But what I have seen work is just the like Me Too tag along thing. And that's that on Prime Day. I'm sure you guys got them too, emails, push notifications, saying, hey, well, we're not Amazon, whatever, but like we have Prime deals today for you. Because they're already, right. Amazon has so much marketing power that people are already, no pun intended, but now that I thought of it, they're already primed to spend their money, and they're in that mindset. And so if you can tap into a consumer while they're in that mindset, that's a good thing to do. So I don't know if you should necessarily have your own special day like Adam's shoe shop. I don't know that we're gonna have an Adam shoe shop day, but maybe we'll have a Prime deal day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the feedback there. And so perfect. Continuing the conversation on social. Adam, there's another question for you.
Sure.
What platforms do you predict, like having the best growth potential, the most impact on e-commerce, and what's showing above the rest of the platforms right now as a key component moving into end of 2020 and into 2021?
Yep. I mean, I think the obvious answer is TikTok, but because you guys already probably thought of that, knew of that, I wanted to think of like another one. And so I went and I dug into some Apptopia data to see, what's growing. And so Twitch is my pick. And Tiffany already talked about live streaming and how important that is, especially in China. So, like TikTok, though, Twitch stands outside. It's owned by Amazon, but it stands outside the duopoly of advertising power that is, Google and Facebook. And according to Apptopia data, Twitch's daily active users have grown 117% year over year. And these users don't mind spending money. Right now, the app is bringing in through in-app purchase revenue anywhere from 450 to 500K a day. Based on recent trends, we do expect that to continue. And so, tapping into that, it's already a big platform, but it's continuing to grow. So tapping into that, I think, is really important. Again, you can, it's a little more genuine, right? The live streaming situation, it's someone you like, it's someone you follow. You'd rather hear that a product is good from a friend and see them use it. They're a streamer, but maybe you think they're your friend. And then it is a blatant advertisement. So I think influencer marketing through streaming will be very powerful, but you can also just run regular ads through a streaming platform like Twitch as well.
Yeah, and the reason why that's super interesting, like you hit that on the head spot on, because the engagement rate of viewers for streamers is out of this world. We know this. We've been knowing this for a long time. But what we found really interesting was that we actually, you mentioned TikTok, of course, and then you mentioned Twitch. What we found out was, some Twitch streamers that had a pretty decent audience on TikTok, that led to a very lucrative performance video because of their audience was so engaged that not only did that lead to our cost per purchases going down like over 20 or 30%, but it led to the general audience understanding, the gaming audience understand the product that we're selling. And even though the product wasn't specifically for gamers, it led to the engagement and loyalty of some of their fans. It's out of this world, and it's just like seeing how these streamers are continuing to grow their platforms on both Twitch and other social platforms right now. That's their goal, to grow across all these platforms. And it's just finding ways to, like what we've been able to succeed and achieve with is finding how to leverage these creators within your performance mix, and it's just like having that important, not just looking at it as like, influencer marketing, but more looking at these creators as more, creative assets, looking at it as like, you're going to pay these production studios tens of thousands of dollars to make these videos. Might as well pay someone that is, understands the platform, makes videos on the platform, has a general understanding of what the audience wants to see rather than kind of guessing what the audience wants to see, So I think it's very important moving forward. I really do appreciate that feedback on Twitch, and I think Twitch will continue to grow. Hopefully they expand on their ad offerings as we go on, and I'm sure they will as we go on, but that's very interesting as well. Tiffany, did you have anything else you wanted to add here?
Absolutely agree with what you just talked about. I would say this shopping season, a lot of or majority of the marketing budget will still be allocated to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Due to the algorithm is stronger, it's a lot easier to optimize towards to a lower cost per. But TikTok is the app, the social platform that we definitely need to get on immediately. If you have not been on TikTok as an advertiser, as an e-commerce brand, you need to get on now. The reason why is TikTok has grown by 85% since the pandemic. And not only they have so many more users, but also the audience in terms of demographic, the age from 30 to 45 has increased by double since February. So not only the platform has a lot more new users, which does not have a tons of overlap compared to other platform, but also much older audience as we expected. And also this platform has the most UGC content. Users not only just scroll up and down to watch a video, but also they produce video. I've never imagined myself will do like a dance video on TikTok, but I did it for my daughter. Like I'm just a viewer, I'm just watch this video, but also at the same time, I create my own video. That means that platform has the most engagement. Users actually open the app more often than Facebook, and they spend more time on TikTok than any other platform. And last but not least, with the merge or acquisition between Walmart, Oracle, and TikTok, on paper, Oracle and Walmart will take 20% of new TikTok. I think the direction is going to go just like what Adam mentioned about live stream. I think this is going to be really interesting to see how Walmart work with TikTok. Potentially we can see more ads and seeing shoes or furniture on my TikTok ads, or seeing some live stream. And that competition between Amazon with Twitch, I think this is going to be an interesting era for all of us to see.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously TikTok going from like 25 million before pandemic to over 100 million in the US is just really exceptional right now in the US. Like Tiffany mentioned, the audience breakdown has been, the number one thing that people come to us with, is mostly just the audience is too young. It's not something that we want to leverage right now. But we've seen that opinion change really, really, really quickly. And it's going to continue to change. Like Tiffany mentioned, her being home with her family, making her do TikToks with her family. It's a trend all over there. I got a random TikTok from my uncle, and I was like, what are you doing? I don't want to see this right now. But it was just interesting to see how everyone's hopping onto the trend and just something that they all want to leverage moving forward. I mean, it's just like, it's a way to express yourself that's not being seen on other platforms. When on other platforms, it's just all about, copying the next person, making yourself look as great as possible. But when on TikTok, it's about, you as a person, like, what do you have to say? Make somebody laugh, make somebody feel some type of way. It's like being you, that's like why it's so important. And then like Tiffany mentioned, we touched upon some of this, the impact lockdown has had on this evolved pandemic period. But I think a way to move forward from here is like understanding, yes, we know live streaming and e-commerce, but is there anything else that you would want to pay attention moving forward? And we can start with Tony regarding this one. It's just more about, just how you see it being evolved in the post-pandemic world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a bit of a throwback, but I was working with a client recently who basically 10x their spend on Facebook in one day, and it increased their app store rankings by about 50 spots. So even just the traditional way of using it to get more placement and kind of strategic like burst campaigns. I haven't heard those come up in a while. We mentioned the sale day events. I think there's a lot of content that kind of goes around the social content to social platforms because of it being organic and because you don't have to drive paid content. But I think actually Facebook has a really big leg up just from my product perspective that maybe most other people don't, is that you could serve contextual ads based on things that people have seen before, but you can also drive them to the proper content based on if they have the app installed or not. So if you're serving an ad, it's not an app install ad anymore. It's actually just go to our content ad, and the content becomes the purpose. So you click on a link, you go to the app store, or sorry, the app if you have it installed, but if you don't, you go to the mobile website, and you could still make that purchase. You don't break the flow of having to go to the App Store, install, and all that. And you also don't even know if you want the app installed. So then you also are breaking up the actual user journey from web to app and having to kind of understand what users are converting into web, what users are converting into app, and how valuable those users are. So it kind of creates a more complex understanding of users, but it gives them more context when you're actually serving them the content. So I think it kind of has this authenticity to it that's more relevant. And I see a lot of my e-commerce clients that I work with do that in some capacity. And I think we'll see how it plays out into iOS 14 and their updates and beyond. But I think for now, it's proven to be valuable, but maybe a little bit harder to measure. And the next step will be making sure that people understand what that user journey is across all of their platforms. And it starts with that social content that they may be engaging with, but where are they ending up?
Yeah, making sure that funnel is set up correctly. Yeah, perfect. Adam, did you have anything else you wanted to add here? I know you mentioned about Twitch and live streaming already, but anything else?
No, well, I think Tony's right. Like taking people out of what they're currently experiencing is a bad play. So another example of this is PayPal. When you would pay with PayPal online, it would take you off the website you were browsing on and bring you to paypal.com. And now if you're purchasing through PayPal, most sites, you stay on the site and it's all done then and there. And so I know, I think Pinterest has either done this or is working on this, where if you want to buy something based on an ad you're seeing, a native ad, that you stay within the Pinterest experience. So you go, where am I going? I'm getting taken out of this. I was having fun browsing Pinterest, looking at how to bake bread or whatever. And so keeping people in the experience that they sought after to begin with, I think is a crucial component.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you mentioned, the content is the biggest key there, and how they approach that content, how they engage with that content is extremely important. And we've been talking about content and creatives a lot. I think that the best way to position this, and as we move forward into Q4 and our strategy, is, lastly, I wanted to position this question for Tiffany, because I know moving into Q4, you're helping your clients leverage a strategy in terms of creatives that for a mix across all their paid campaigns. What would be some of the recommendations that you would give to the audience, whether it's an app or a brand, of how they could leverage their creatives going into Q4? And is there anything different that you would want them to focus on and remember moving forward?
Without doubt, creative is a driver for app download and e-commerce performance campaign. And this year, starting with the shopping season, brands should take inspiration from the macro trends and see what you can apply them. They're just saying that great artists copy, good artists copy, great artists steal. So take inspiration from what your competitors are doing, what they've done last year, what is the hashtag, what's hot on hashtag now, and take that inspiration built into your creative strategy. And again, refresh your creative on a weekly basis, at least once a week, if you can do twice a week, and try out different format and visual, and so you can replicate that same video across different social platforms. And personalize your marketing messaging and use targeted approach to fit in the needs of ever-changing consumer, because we all know the consumer behaviors are changing and they might change forever, right? So use personalized data to reach out and engage with your user is very important. And last but not least, work with the creator and influencer. Influencer is a big topic for e-commerce this year, because the content and the messaging the influencers are presenting is where the consumers are trusting. 93% of the user, consumer, actually the purchase behavior is being influenced by their peers and by the community, by word of mouth. So work with the creators and to build your testing your creative strategy is really important. What we have seen, as Jacob mentioned, when we work with the creator to produce either video that we can utilize for our performance campaign or just organic campaign, we're seeing great results. In some cases that we're seeing the cost per download and cost per action even down by 30%.
And I think, just to add, Tiffany, which said a bunch of very valuable information, when you work with creators and influencers, where it's very important not to just pick any creator and influencer. It's very important to just, like, people get this bad perception because of the fact that they work with creators didn't work out well, and they say that the whole general market doesn't work out well. But more importantly, it's finding the right partners to help you find the right creators and find you like what they have had experience with creators, and helping leverage that experience to expand on your own creator campaigns and make it more performance oriented. Everyone's used to this brand awareness, influencer, creative, but how about adding that performance mix within the creative, whether it's showing the action of actually going to the app store and downloading the app on the creative, which seems a little addy, but at the same time, it's proven to work. It's like dumbing it down for the audience as much as possible on the ad has actually worked, and just making a very seamless process all around. But great information all around. I really do appreciate all of you guys. I think we're already at 1 hour. Sorry guys, went a little bit over, but I'm gonna ask a few questions and then we'll call it a day. Perfect. Thank you guys so much for listening. First question from the audience that we want to leverage. What other new technology can we expect within e-commerce apps besides live streaming, AR, VR, etc.? Anybody want to answer this question?
I can speak briefly about that. I think definitely VR and AR is going to transform the e-commerce shopping experience, because we all know more than 80% of the user, they really enjoy the in-store shopping experience. And within e-commerce, how do we close the gap that not kill the whole shopping experience, but enhance that? That's going to go through the VR technology, right? And with the VR technology, it can really polish the experience and going to virtual store and try different things out and getting 360 view of the entire store. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how VR and AR can do for our e-commerce industry.
I imagine, yeah, as long as the tech is good, especially for clothing, given pandemic times, if you can try on clothes through AR and actually feel good about the, how it looks on you through the augmented reality technology, like that's a game changer. I don't have to go into the store. I don't have to try on clothes that maybe someone gross tried on or something like that. And so, as long as the tech's good, that should just absolutely take off for retail.
100%. I was thinking about a business idea. If there's an app can capture all my measurement and take a picture of 360 video, and I can store have the app on my phone, and any other e-commerce app I go to, I can just port into the data and just do virtual try on apparel. And that's going to catch my measurement and also my skin tone, in terms of cosmetic and facial products.
Wow, you're way ahead of everybody right now. So.
I just so much online, especially for like cosmetic and apparel.
That's awesome. Moving on to the next question. So this is actually very interesting. How big of a role does payment apps play in e-commerce? Venmo, Cash App, they've seen exceptional growth. Whether it's small, medium businesses, whether it's large businesses, everyone is starting to use these payment providers. Do you guys think you could add some feedback regarding this as well?
Yeah. We kind of touched on this already, about integrating different payments. I think it definitely does depend again on who your customer is, because for some people, they're really, no matter what, they're into playing the credit card game, and they want those points, and they're choosing a specific credit card for a specific reason. But like, if you get someone to your checkout page, there's a lot of talk in the retail and the e-commerce space about abandoned carts, right? If you're getting someone to the checkout page, like, payment should not be an issue. If they have the money, like, you got to offer everything that's available. And so most people have Cash App, most people have Venmo. As long as those are, I don't believe they're able to be integrated with every single e-commerce provider today, but they're starting to be in a lot more. I know Uber Eats, I'm pretty sure you can use Venmo on. So if it's available to you, like, load up your arsenal. Don't let that be a reason that people aren't cashing out with you. But, from what I've seen today, not enough apps actually have that as a checkout option, but I think they should, because you go look at the data. Like, I can tell you from Apptopia, the penetration of Cash App and Venmo, at least in the United States, and there's different apps in different countries, but in the United States, that penetration is really strong. So you can potentially increase your sales there.
Just like you mentioned, PayPal Express, how that was played into it. I believe in the next few years, it's going to be the same way Cash App is played into it. That's definitely interesting. I think the final question we could end off, again, just a reminder that if you fill out the survey that you're going to get a pop-up on your screen, please feel free to answer that survey, and you'll get a chance to win a free pair of AirPods Pro. Just add it to your collection of headphones, if you guys have it. But final question that I wanted to end off on. While social media has a tremendous amount of upside historically, whether it's branding or performance, it's been challenging for businesses to convert social traffic into sales. What are the ways that e-commerce companies, or just e-commerce in general, can overcome this problem and find more effective ways to convert social traffic to sales? I know we talked about creatives. I know we talked about maybe live streaming on those platforms, but is there anything else that you guys would want to add to specifically speaking to improving your purchase rate on a social platform? Anybody?
I don't have any experience there.
Maybe Tiffany, you want to mention some things about just maybe the challenge of converting social traffic into sales?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why the single day was really successful is because they really build the whole shopping experience into social. And that's something that we can learn in our market. And in terms of how to make the whole social connect to e-commerce experience more seamlessly, like we mentioned previously, how do we make sure the user engage within the experience, not leaving, right? And how are we going to integrate with the whole one click into click and collect shipping experience more seamlessly. And you know, this year, this shopping season will be very, very interesting to see. I'm sure there's going to be other new technology coming up, if not yet. We're just going to wait and see if there's any data, third-party data provider or any other checkout or after-pay installment and payment provider there to help us to really shift this industry, our ecosystem.
Definitely. And I do think technology has a big part of that, but I think at the core also very, very important for converging social traffic in 2020 is being, you know, transparent with your audience, being, you know, having the creatives that are directed towards that purchase item or purchase funnel. You know, like a lot of people just do a general for their app or brand. It's being more specifically focused when you're doing your retargeting ads, making sure that you're using the right creatives within those retargeting ads. And it's just that, like, converting social traffic at the end of the day, it's all based off content and A/B testing and continuously doing different strategies, whether it comes to your captions, hashtags, headlines, whatever it might be. So just continue testing, I believe, is the best key moving forward in that area. Thank you guys all so much. Thank you, Adam, Tony, and Tiffany. You guys were all amazing. And I'm sure everybody, if you guys have further questions, I'm sorry that we didn't get to go through all of them. We will definitely answer them in some way or another, or feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll all get back to you very soon. Yeah, if anybody has anything else to add, if not, I wish you guys all have a great rest of your day, and please don't forget to fill out the survey and get some free AirPods Pro.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day and rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.